Welcome to Improvisations. We're talking with Jihye Lee from the Jihye Lee Orchestra. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And thanks for making this record, which is really wonderful. It's called Daring Mind, and we're going to get deep into it. But before we do, I'm kind of wondering what state of mind are you in right now?
Right now, I'm in the business mode.
Financial success mind?
Hopefully, but I dare to have that, but we'll see.
Yeah, and I guess it's got to be a challenge because this is a very large work, and I'm sure it was a lot of investment from a lot of people and yourself. Are you nervous about this big thing you've unleashed into the world?
No, not nervous, but it's anyway from my pocket, so it's fine anyway. I did
Yeah.
it out of love, so but I hope it has its success, its own good life, but we shall see.
Well, I love it actually, and when it came in, we usually get a big mail drop every day, and
I bet.
when it came in, and I just saw the title, Daring Mind, and I just went to this CD first because I'm like, that speaks to me. I want to know what this is,
Oh,
and
that's
what.
happy.
Yeah, and the joy of the record for me is that I feel like we get to know your mind a little bit, and the various states it's going through. What was the spark that made you focus on this sort of concept about these different states of mind and history?
I mean, when I started writing pieces, I didn't really think about like the whole concept of the album, but all the compositions are written right after I moved to New York. So you know how New York is. It can be it can be overwhelming, and then it can make you be nervous or frustrated at the same time, but excited too. As an immigrant person who wants to do jazz, which has like with no jazz background, um, it can be difficult, and I had to somehow make it through. So that's how. I mean, I didn't plan it, but it happened to have each songs having some kind of daring state of mind. I would say.
Well, I mean, it is, and if you think about it, I think about it. I can't recall many Korean pop singers that have like completely transformed into, writing great compositions and having them recorded in New York. It's a kind of a rare path.
It is. But I mean, even though I was a pop singer, I wasn't a K-pop singer or idol groups. I was still a singer-songwriter who wrote my own music, but it wasn't at the degree that I do right now. So yeah, but I don't know. I mean, yeah, who did that? I don't know.
I'm going to call it and say you're the first, at least that I've heard. It starts out with Relentless Mind, which is that one also I kind of related to well. It's like, oh, this is me. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, because I think that's the nature of the mind itself. It's always just sort of like going on and looking around and never slowing down. And it's kind of like that piece is. Can you tell me about the piece for you?
You know, I met a lot of great artists or great just human beings in New York, and then they're sort of top of their games, but still they still love to push themselves to somewhere. I'm like, what are these people, And then I got so much inspiration just to meet them. And also, even though you go outside and walk on the street, people are just like, like relentlessly doing something or going somewhere. They are like always constantly doing something. And then, that kind of image that I had in mind, I wanted to write music for it because that's my, like, I don't know, that's my view towards music, towards the city of New York. It's a good in a good way. So it has lots of like repeated notes. It has kind of hectic haziness, and then all the rhythm sections or like horn sections. They have their own phrases, and then they are all doing their own things, but never really. match to each other but still harmonize. I don't know if it makes sense. So that's how I view that piece.
Yeah, and there's a video out of this, and I always appreciate those because you can actually see the the musicians playing, and is it Sean Jones is on trumpet on this one?
Mhm.
Yeah, and it's just really fun to watch. Was it just thrilling to have all this music in your head and then one day to see it performed?
What does it mean?
So, for example, you imagined this music and wrote this music, and these are big pieces, but you never can hear them performed until you get the orchestra together. What's it like with that first time you hear it?
I'm nervous, definitely, because since I'm not an instrumentalist, I can't play trombones or saxophones, trumpets, and then I don't know the nature of the instruments so well. So sometimes, everything has pros and cons. So that's why I don't limit myself to write whatever, because I don't know how hard it is. So I just write, and then rest of them, please take care of it. So maybe all the players will hate me, but I don't know. But at the same time, it makes me nervous because I can't fully imagine how that will be executed. So every time I bring my new piece to the band, it's like so much excitement at the same time a bit nervous. So, but I think the first time hearing from the band is the most joyous thing out of everything. So that I think that makes all the composers addicted to this cult. I would say.
Well, you mentioned that you're not like an instrumentalist by trade, and so in some ways, I feel that that makes the compositions that more interesting. Like on the next one, Unshakable Mind, there's this one section where it breaks down with the guitar player and the bass player, and I think just the drummer, and they're sort of trading a little conversation there, and then they do these things in unison that I just don't expect. And I'm a guitar player, so when I was listening, I thought I would never think to do this, but as a listener, I love that section. That's one of my favorite sections.
Mm. Thank you for listening, by the way. You really listened. I appreciate it. And I think you're right, because if you're an instrumentalist, you have some kind of habit. Your hands just go somewhere, just like with the habit. It's more likely it doesn't come out from your head completely. It comes out from your hands, which is awesome. But I appreciate you saying, like, yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I feel sorry for some kind of instrumentalists who play in the big band, because sometimes I let them play only one note or like very simple things. So it's not so much fun, I would say. I mean, you can do lots of fancy things with your hands, but sometimes I let them play, oh, just like, for instance, the Unshakable Mind, the second piece, the bass player plays A harmonics from the beginning, and then lower eight, lowest A, something like that. And then the note, repeated note A, just play it. It's played throughout the piece. And then who would like that, playing A all the time? But as a composer, yeah, I can let them do that because it's part of the composition. And then I really think that, like, as a composer too, we all have to sacrifice our ego for sake of the music, because it's not the time that you shine, it's the music to shine. So, and then also the Unshakable Mind, like, compositional wise, yeah, it has some kind of thing, but it's very simple piece, but I love it. It has the arc, like, in terms of the structure, but it doesn't really have lots of fancy thing. But I love the piece because I don't know. I sort of feel like that piece taught me, um, the simple is more, or like like, what is less is more, the phrase. Yeah, it also taught me lots of things as a.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons that's probably my favorite piece on the record, and I think that's maybe one of the reasons it's refreshingly simple and spacious where it needs to be. And after the first piece, you've got that sort of rush and that adrenaline from like you feel like you're in a traffic jam and then speeding out of it. And in this one, it's more like you're finding this steady space. But it kind of brings to mind to me another one of my favorite composers, Maria Schneider. Like as she's been composing for years and years, I noticed there's much more simplicity in her
Mm.
compositions and much more space. Is she an influence of yours?
I mean, the first time I heard big band was after I moved to America. So I studied at Berklee College of Music, 2011. Before that, I didn't even know that jazz orchestra existed. So yeah, so because that means I had no opportunity to listen to Maria Schneider, Thad Jones, Jim McNeely, whosoever. Yeah, at Berkeley, I heard the live music from the big band, and then I was overwhelmed by the fullness of the sound, the richness of the sound. That was my first time listening to the big band. And after that, Maria Schneider, yes, I can say she was my favorite composer. Um, I love her. I love her music because it has so much soul, I would say. So sometimes I walk on the street just listening to her music. I have tears in my eyes because it just moves my core. And after that, I discovered Jim McNeely, Bob Meyer, Gil Evans, or like you name it, all the historical composers. But I can't say I grew up listening to those people and then I was influenced. So like the most influence that I got from is just pop music or is just whatever music that I heard from TV. So
Yeah, and there's lots of gorgeous melodies in this record too, and so I feel like I appreciate that pop sensibility. Um, and this pop is not a bad word to me.
yeah.
Suji is another favorite of mine, and this is a really gorgeous piece. I believe in the liner notes you say it's all major chords. Can you tell me a little bit about what this piece is?
Suji is one of my dear friends and um, from Boston. And when I just started composing for a big band, she was a huge cheerleader. Like for me, like she's always says like you can do it. And then she's also another great composer. Right now she doesn't really do so much, but we were at same school and we just encouraged each other. And I just wanted to dedicate this piece to her, just to say thank you, because you were one of the reasons that I'm here. So just like she's a bright spirit, and she's very jolly, delighted person. Um, so I mean, um, I don't know. I wanted to transfer her character, transform her character into the music. And then I was thinking, how can I do that? And then I just decided to have like all major chord, some kind of ascending line, never really said, and like some kind of lyrical quality in it, like kind of blooming sound. Um, and I came up with the first piano like kind of pattern, like ga 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 ga. But it's not really easy at the same time because the meter is a bit confusing. It's not really waltz, even though I had waltz image. So the rhythm is a bit complicated. Also, it has some kind of fun compositional trick because the melody starts with the one note and then two notes, three notes, four notes, five notes, six notes, seven notes, eight notes. It just like extends the phrase wise, and then the counterpoint comes one notes, two notes, three notes, four notes. With the descending line, so it has some kind of mathematic or number playing, but and then also on the solo section, the pianist, huge thanks to Adam Birnbaum, because the meter is constantly changing, and then the chord changes happens separate from the meter change. So it's very confusing to do solo on it, but it sounds organic. Why I did this? Because I didn't want to hear some kind of boxed sound. So I want it to be very flowy. So I just, like messed up with the meter and the chord changes. And then he did a great job.
Yeah, and I think that's another appealing thing about this record is that there are references, to lots of different things, musically. I mean, I even hear little touches of Ellington and moments or so in there. But overall, it doesn't really follow the playbook of jazz orchestras. And there's nothing wrong with the playbook of jazz orchestras. I can love going to see a really traditional straight down the middle thing. But the record actually kind of, I feel, transcends the title and the label. You know what I mean? Was that
Yep.
intentional or?
I mean, I don't know if someone can intentionally do something. I think it's just me. It just happened. I didn't really, I would say I didn't think about daring mind and then I would write daring music. Whereas I think I found out my music is not really following the traditional jazz composition idiom. And then I kind of wanted to make excuse. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I put the title Daring Mind. And then I'm using Wayne Shorter's quote just to make me a little bit of credibility to do this music.
What's been the reaction that you've gotten from people that you really trust? I'm sure that you shared it with your heroes or your friends, and I'm sure Suji. I mean, and like she's got to kind of like it automatically because she's got her own song, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think I was fortunate to meet lots of great mentors who encouraged me to do whatever I want to do. So Jihye Lee, who I studied with at Manhattan School of Music, even though he says, "Oh, I'm a what he did, big band swing guy," but he also is very um, adventurous writer. I mean, he also tries to do something different in comparison to his fellow composers at his age. I mean, he has tremendous respect from me, um, but he never really said, "This is not legit," or "This is not the way." He never said that. He always says, "Huh, interesting." And then he encouraged me to do whatever I want to do, and then I appreciate that. And then later I met Ted Nash or Alan Ferber. Oh, sorry, Andy Farber. Andy Farber, I met at BMI workshop. They also said like, "I love your creativity," and then "Just be you." And then Sean Jones, the same thing. But it's funny because sometimes I do some kind of like presentation for someone who is not from New York or who is not really having open mind. They say, "Oh, I don't really hear swing so much, but I can't be loved from everybody." So, and then I can't help. It's just me. I mean, it's the music came off from me with the music that I grew up listening to. So I can't just help.
Yeah, well, in that way, it's honest, and that's what I want. Regardless of what an individual's honesty is. It's always great when you're like true to yourself.
Yeah.
Um, I think maybe the most personal piece might be the last one. It's called GB, which were or still are the initials of someone in a relationship, and it sort of chronicles the ups and downs and the dissolving. Um, did GB hear this?
Uh, I wouldn't know because I don't
Yeah.
talk to him.
Well, how did it feel? Was it cathartic to write the piece?
um, I think it kind of healed me. That was my therapy, I would say. Right after the breakup, everybody is in pain, and thank God that I had music to write, and I think I released my all the leftover emotions, like just to play through, just to compose. Um, yeah, I mean, it's just the outlet that I really needed at the moment. And then, one time Maria Schneider, I think if I remember correctly, Maria Schneider said when she found out she has some kind of like, health problem, she went to piano and then started to compose. And then she like instantly found peace. I think that's the thing that we all composers appreciate, having music with them.
Yeah, and even a piece like "Dissatisfied Mind," which is a little shorter, but it's one of the more dissonant pieces. There was also something really, I'm guessing, really cathartic about getting that out. Like releasing all that and channeling it, and the excitement of doing it.
Mhm.
I like that piece a lot. What do you think about it?
I love it. I mean, that was like, I know. I mean, the theme is second step and then the tritone. So the intervals are, the theme, which can be very unpleasant to the listeners. But I don't know. I kind of wanted to have the, like, okay, I had the like horrible imagery in my head, like, why am I having all the negativities, or why am I not always discontent myself? So I want to figure out what's going on. So I just, in my image, like in my head, I just, like, cut myself and then just open the half of the cover and then just look into my head and then see what's happening. And then I see a lot of like popping thoughts, negativities, and then things. So it's very like, it just pops, like all the notes and then the intervals and everything. It's very discontent. But I think I wrote the piece very intuitively, and but it still has the intervals as a theme. So I hope it still sounds like one piece, but it's just like, I don't know. It didn't really have a lot of plan. I'm just like, okay, whatever it comes to my head, I'm just writing. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's one of the really most interesting aspects of the record. I feel like here's the artist really examining their own mind and sharing what they see. Have you learned something about yourself from all this observing of the patterns and habits of your mind?
About myself in terms of music or in terms of person?
I think, personally or musically.
It's funny because, I realized that when you speak both languages, like different languages, you kind of have different personalities. So when I speak Korean, I'm more polite in a bad way. I am being less daring. I am like, I think it's the character of the language. But English, I say it's very straightforward. And then it doesn't have the age difference. We always say hey to 60-year-old or 80-year-old. It doesn't matter. So that language nature, um, it develops a part of my personality. So okay, let's say I did fundraising campaign. I asked a lot of people to help me out, like it in many ways, not just financially, but I wouldn't dare to do that if I were in Korea. But in America, speaking different languages and just learning, or being mentored from, people in America, they taught me to dare. They taught me to just, be different. So yeah, I mean, speaking other languages, writing some music that I haven't written, that also, I think it's a mutual relationship. It's from my it's from my personality. It's from me, but it also affected on me in a certain way.
Wow. Yeah, it's interesting because I studied a couple of languages, and I noticed, like, when I speak Spanish, I actually feel different.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it was a shocking revelation. I'm like, well, who am I? And what part of me has been missing or not brought to life?
yeah. Let's learn more languages.
Yeah, that's a great. All I need is like two or three lifetimes, and I'll boy, it'll be perfect. Well, what's next? I mean, you've really kind of knocked it out of the park, with this first big work. Uh, what's next for you?
um, with the pandemic, I mean, I know everybody expects all the composers being home and write, 24/7, but it's not the truth, at least to me. Yeah, I don't know. Like 2020 was hard. Like I thought if I had more time, I would write, but it wasn't that way. I did nothing. I mean, honestly, I feel ashamed a little bit, but I think I needed a little bit of break. And then I talked to other fellow composers, and it was the same. So it's interesting, when things are going on, and then you go out, to the city, and then just hear all the music every night, and you got inspired. It actually makes you write more. To like it's interesting. I mean, so yeah, I haven't done so much work, but after I released my album this year, I've done a lot of administrational work because, as an independent artist, you are your own business owner. Um, but right now, I am writing some music. I have a show coming up. It's a virtual concert. Um, I put together a band with all Korean female musicians. And then it's dedicated to the Asian hate crime victims in Atlanta. So yeah, but I haven't written any music. I mean, I have some plans in my head, but I haven't really, notated. So I'm working on that. And I really want to do another big band album when it uh when the chance comes, and then when the world is getting back to normal. And then I don't know what I would write, but one thing I have in mind is just incorporate Korean traditional music into jazz. But it's gonna be hard task. But let's see. I mean, I don't know what will come
Yeah, well, I would love to hear that as well.
out.
Well, the new record is called Daring Mind, and it is a real treat. It's a journey. It's an adventure. It's not just a collection of songs. I think it's a real piece. That someone could really take a nice journey on from start to finish, and really enjoy talking to you today. So thanks so much.
Thank you so much.